Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for gathering here as we are in October. I think it's important to recognize that the group of legislators, not only that you see behind you, but they've been a part of our House Republican caucus this term, have worked extremely hard, even from a position in the minority, to advance public policy that we believe will make an impact on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we have been very clear since the beginning of this session what we believe needs to happen. When the governor proposed his budget in February, it was so out of line with the fiscal realities of this Commonwealth that it has led us to this point. And I think where we find ourselves now is the idea of how in the world can our number one role as state government in producing a state budget once again be not only late, but still talking in the realms that are outside of the realities of our economic situation in Pennsylvania. And so I think it's important that we once again, as the House Republican caucus, reiterate where we are in relation to the budget. First of all, you cannot continue to have budgets without sustained economic growth. And we continue to see jobs flee Pennsylvania. There's only one way. I hear a lot about revenue, and to be very clear, there's only one way state government receives revenue. It's not from a bake sale on the Capitol steps. It's from a tax base, which you don't have if you don't have working people in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, if you don't have jobs in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And the number one way we can reignite our economy in Pennsylvania is to unleash our energy industry. What we have underneath our feet in terms of natural resources would make any state in the union green with envy. And yet we continue to miss our opportunities. One of the reasons is we still have the instability in our energy market because of the regional greenhouse gas initiative that we were taken into under Governor Wolf through executive order. It is imperative that to bring stability to this industry, to bring certainty to the market that can grow our economy, we have to get out of RGGI once and for all. We are prepared today to offer a discharge resolution to begin that process with a bill that has been in the House, came over from the Senate, because you really can't get anywhere else in energy policy until we take care of this fundamental issue. We've talked about it since the beginning of the year. We're going to have the opportunity to move forward on that. We believe that will open up all kinds of possibilities for sustainable economic growth in the future. And make no mistake, that's what makes budgets sustainable. You can make a budget sheet say whatever you want in terms of the numbers. But if you don't have the jobs behind it in the economy, that's all they are. They're just numbers, and we continue to see the numbers go in the wrong direction. In several years, if we continue this rate, we will be in deficit spending, and that is not an option for this caucus. The second thing I want to address that is one of the cost drivers in our budget and is one of the most critical things that we do as lawmakers, and that is ensuring that every one of our students has access to a high-quality education. We cannot guarantee success for every student. There are a lot of circumstances that are in play when it comes to educational success. What our job is and what our mission is to ensure that every student has an opportunity in the Commonwealth to succeed. And regardless of how much money we have seen invested into public education over the past several budgets, historic levels, we are still seeing students that do not have those opportunities. We need transformational change in our educational system. And we have talked about that for years. We believe that there are opportunities in this budget, not just to continue to invest, but also transform that system. And yes, some of that transformation comes with dollars, and we're prepared to do that. We have always been prepared to invest in our children's future, and we will continue to be. But we must also be sure that our system is working. Things like the science of reading and structured literacy to ensure that our kids are able to read. That's the most fundamental concept that we need to make sure they have in public education. And then for those students who that traditional public education doesn't work for, or maybe the school system of which they were born into doesn't allow for them to be successful. There have to be other options. There's simply no question that that can change the trajectory of the Commonwealth. And that has to be a part of these policy discussions as we talk about investments into education. And then finally, being able to adjust the costs moving forward by offering benefit integrity and ensuring that our social safety net programs are there and are sustainable for those who absolutely need it here in the Commonwealth. And if we don't make adjustments to the sustainability of these programs, they will either cease to exist, or we will face the most massive tax increase in the history of the Commonwealth and continue to watch our population flee to South Carolina, to Florida, or even to Ohio and West Virginia, our neighboring states. That is what is at stake with this budget. Why is it so difficult? You have two opposing views of how to make these budgets sustainable into the future, but the path we choose will absolutely make a difference if we want our kids and our grandkids to have a Commonwealth moving forward. I don't stand before you as a leader, and none of these legislators do, with the understanding that whatever product comes out will somehow be everything that I want or we want. We understand the difficulties of divided government. I would say in a 102, 101 House, we understand better than anybody what divided government looks like. But divided does not mean dysfunctional. It does not have to be dysfunctional. We can set a tone in this chamber and this state government that can reverberate throughout America if we put our minds to it and do it. And there are opportunities for us to do just that. But we have to be willing to have the difficult discussions. We have to be willing to be in the rooms where these difficult decisions will be made. And we have to come together in a way that acknowledges the realities that we face and stop doing the same things over and over and over again and somehow expect some magically difficult or different result. So that's why we're here. We're here to let you know that when we go back to our districts, we are going to continue to talk about what we believe is a path forward for this budget. Economic growth and the policies that surround it, transformational change in our education system and the policies that surround it, and being able to adjust the cost curve moving forward so that these programs are sustainable. With that, I'll take questions. Yes?
So half of the stalling here, right, is on the Senate Republican side. What is your caucus doing to work with Senate Republicans who are in the majority there to finish this budget?
This caucus has been willing to work with both sides, all sides, and we have. We've been in constant communication with the Senate Republicans. I believe that everyone has the same goal. It's just, what are we willing to do to get there? Yes?
Everyone was in the building this week for 3 days, and it looks like you all are about to drive home and nothing got accomplished, and this is 100 days late. Why did those difficult discussions not happen?
They're happening. They're not producing the results that they need. Why? Because I don't believe everybody has yet come to the reality of what we're facing. This group has, the group in front of you has. I'm not sure that everybody has come to that realization.
Where is the fault line? Can you be more specific? Where's the divide? Where are you not meeting up?
I think there's two main divides. One is over the idea that if you continue to spend at this level and make no changes to economic policy, then we will be in such a deficit spot in a couple of years that it will require a massive tax increase. Now, for some in that building, that might not be a big deal. But for others in this building, including ones that are needed in order to close this budget, that is a huge deal. It really comes down with what is the spending and how does it match the policy? Look, there's anybody who has followed my political career, not that anybody would do that, but if that were the case, you would find that any level of spending that we're currently at is too high for Jesse Topper, right? I think government has grown way too big. I think we spend way too much. That being said, I also acknowledge that I am one person in the General Assembly, in one part of the General Assembly, right? And so over the years, you try and match. All right, well, if we're going to spend X, then what is the policy that will ensure that our tax base is going to grow to support it? Because I'm not going to vote on taxing an already highly taxed population even more. So how do you get there? And if we can find those tools to economic growth, we can do it. What's frustrating about this moment right now is that we really have something that's out there in terms of economic growth that is so readily achievable, we can just reach out and grab it, and we can put shovels in the ground. And that's what's frustrating right now, is that needs to happen immediately.
Talk specifically about what that is, because Governor Shapiro was at that energy summit in Pittsburgh a couple of months ago saying, yes, we need to move forward on a lot of these projects. So exactly what's not happening on the energy front?
We're still in the regional greenhouse gas. We still have the lawsuit of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, of which the governor is a party to, that is still creating the uncertainty. If you talk to people within the energy industry, they are saying that until that is resolved, they are not going to commit to the kind of investment in terms of generation builds that we need. I believe that if you take Reggie out of the equation, what comes next is truly something that could be remarkable, because whether it's public policy or whether it's local options in terms of permitting, there's a lot that will happen once that roadblock is moved. And I think that's the first key to it.
So is that specific issue one of the roadblocks to a budget? Is that on the table, that's not getting removed, and that's a problem?
That's a problem for us.
Isn't that before the Supreme Court?
It is.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have been before the Supreme Court over the years, and I haven't been thrilled with how a lot of them have turned out. This is our...
The budget?
No, I'm saying that we have a responsibility to legislate. It shouldn't be before the courts. This should be before the elected body that you see in front of you on both sides of the aisle and in both chambers. We need to do our job to get it done. The Senate has given us a way to do that, and we need to do it.
But it is before the court today, and we need a budget this year.
The lawsuit is before the court, but we can take that away. The governor can get out of that lawsuit anytime he wants. That's up to him. But we still have the responsibility to pass a bill that actually takes it out of the equation for good.
Because they're not likely to rule on that until after an election that's coming up. So are you saying it should be withdrawn?
Yes, absolutely. It should be withdrawn, but we also should pass a bill that prevents it from happening in the future under executive order.
Leader, I know you and your members have heard from your constituencies, the leaders, the schools, about everything going on without the state funding. How far can this go until things become a real emergency?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. For some, it's a real emergency now. For others, it's longer. But from my standpoint, the problem is we haven't gotten it done. Depending on whether you're a school district that is in a really good financial situation, or whether you're one that's not, your definition of emergency and the timing of it will change. What has to drive us is, where can you get to an actual good product? The quality matters as well, and that's what's holding it up. Steve?
They're looking at the calendar. It looks like a budget bill might be passed today and going over to the Senate, just trying to read tea leaves. Have you been brought into any budget conversation at this point, and could you say how those are going?
They're not going the way they should go, is what I'll say. And as far as any budget bill that might be voted on in either chamber today, as of now, that's not agreed to. So if we continue the idea of sending bills back and forth, then you're going to continue to have the same result.
Does that apply just as much to Senate Republicans as House Democrats?
That applies to everybody.
Is there a magic number at this point where if you got spending under that figure, you think you could strike?
No, because again, the spending number has to match the policy growth. I mean, I don't see any option on the table where people are talking about cutting billions of dollars so that we can make sure in several years we're not in deficit spending, which means there has to be policy to match to grow the economy on any number.
Just, there was some talk about the court weighing in on important decisions. Skill Games is also going before the court soon, potentially. They've taken up cases about that. Are you concerned about the outcome there and how that might be shaping budget talks?
No, I'm concerned about making sure that any policy we advance, including in the gaming world, is good for Pennsylvania. And that's what we have to focus on. You guys can guess on what the courts are going to do as much as I. I have decided that that's a fool's errand for me. We have a job to do, and we plan to do it.
Senate Democrats this week said Stacey Gary doesn't have the authority to issue loans to county agencies. I understand the Senate today will probably look at it to make those interest-free. What do you make of Democrats saying it may be more like a
well, then the Senate Democrats can be helpful in passing a budget. Okay, thank you, everybody.